Let me quickly cut across to Shiv Aroor, joining us live from the newsroom to give us an understanding into what these stealthy suicide drones really mean. Shiv, Russia now using the most sophisticated weaponry from their arsenal. They're now unleashing stealthy suicide drones, and to counter that, United States helping Ukraine with switchblade drones. Give us an understanding on the impact these drones could tender.
Nabila, putting the spotlight on drones is hugely important because even in just the recent past, in conflicts between Armenia and Azerbaijan, we've actually seen how suicide drones, attack drones of the exact same kind that are being used here between Ukraine and Russia have been absolute game changers. Now, just consider what a suicide drone is. It's a intelligent little aircraft. It's unmanned, obviously, remote controlled, programmed to fly, pretty significant distances, many kilometers, tens of kilometers if necessary, has sensors to be able to pick up targets if they're not pre-programmed. It can loiter around targets and at an optimal moment dive out of the sky and hit them. We've seen multiple videos that have come out since day 2 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict where Ukraine has demonstrated the use of, the Turkish Bayraktar drones, for precision strikes on Russian artillery positions. And now you're seeing the Ukrainians being supplied with switchblade drones. The Russians have their own attack, mini drones as well, which they've been using, to hit certain positions. Much of the damage that you actually see in those videos that have been coming out on both sides could actually be from drone strikes. And the sort of pixelated infrared imagery you see are from other drones which are actually capturing the damage that's been brought to bear by these attack drones. So they're absolute game changers. This era of drone warfare once again being affirmed, Nabila, by what's happening in Ukraine. And I can tell you for sure that scientists, military, weapons industry personnel, they're all looking at this very closely because there are lessons being learned on how to improve these systems, make them more autonomous, remove the human from the equation as much as possible, unleash them in swarms, get them out there to completely change the tide of conflict. And that's one of the reasons why Ukraine perhaps has been able to fend off a much larger invading force at this point.
Right. Shiv, these suicide drones that Russia is unleashing bears a lot of similarity and resemblance with the kamikaze Japanese drones. Give us an understanding on how deadly this could really turn out to be, the kamikaze drones in compared to this that we see from Russia.
Well, the word kamikaze is a Japanese word, and in the Japanese context, those weren't even kamikaze drones. During World War II, there were kamikaze pilots, who actually flew. Kamikaze is basically the Japanese god of wind, and the kamikaze pilots were basically bomber pilots who, once their fuel and their weaponry were exhausted, they would actually ram their planes into American or allied targets, and that's where they got their names kamikaze, because they were basically suicide bombers flying these planes. So that's where the word kamikaze now gets extrapolated to these drones, because these drones basically hunt for targets and then they dive out of the sky and hit them. So the reason why these drones are extremely advanced is because they both carry a sensor to find the target. They carry a multifunctional computer to process that target, beam it back to the home station to get that clearance for that attack if it's not an autonomous mission. Then it has a warhead as well to actually swoop out of the sky and finish the mission. And these are deadly accurate, Nabila. These are systems which are just a few feet in length. They can be carried in backpacks, like the story you've done on the switchblades, which the US is going to be supplying to Ukraine. These are tiny little drones that can be carried in a small military backpack, very quickly deployed, quickly programmed, and launched for an attack on a target that may be barely a handful of kilometers away. So these are deadly, very low investment, high on technology, and devastating in their impact.
Shiv, thank you very much for joining us on that. We're looking at these kamikaze drones that now seems to be an ammunition which Russia is boasting of. They're now delivering it in numbers as Ukraine comes under fire from Russia. I'm going to quickly take you through the capabilities of these kamikaze drones that Russia is currently using in Ukraine, to which we hear that United States has stepped up to try and send out switchblade drones to Ukraine to counter these really deadly suicide drones coming in from Russia. Now, the kamikaze drone It's super stealthy, unmanned drones that carries explosives. In fact, this warhead evades air defense. It's super sleek and slips past the enemy line. It seeks out the target that's been fed via images and literally can hover around and over the target for an opportune time for it to strike and hit head first. It could explode in suicide strike. It could be used in swarm drones. In fact, a swarm of these drones can be sent out in one shot. We're looking at these systems now that has come about from Russia with top speed of 130 kilometers per hour with a payload of at least 3 kgs. And this flight duration can go up to 30 minutes. We're looking at accuracy and precision of these suicide drones which Russia has now unleashed. Now, how do you fight a superpower which is out to really annihilate you? Now, you do what Ukraine is doing with killer precision, using its Brahmastra drones to take out approaching Russian tank convoys. Enter the super lethal and super silent Bayraktar drones in Ukraine's arsenal. Here's a detailed report on the kind of ammunition that's now been unleashed.
Look carefully. Perhaps the most compelling aerial image of Ukraine's counter-strike on its invaders. Look carefully at these infrared images. What you're looking at is a Russian missile position being struck from the skies by a Ukrainian drone. The drone said to be raining this hell on Russian forces is the Bayraktar TB2, a combat drone fleet supplied by Turkey in 2019. These drones carry 4 laser-guided missiles that have proven highly effective in combat. The TB2 has a flight time of 24 hours and a communication range of almost 185 miles, with a service altitude ceiling of roughly 25,000 feet. Additionally, some of these drones create a disturbing sound when approaching their targets, which can be psychologically unsettling. The chief of Ukraine's Air Force, Lieutenant General Mykola Oleshchuk, describes the Bayraktar TB2 drones as life-giving. Each Bayraktar TB2 system consists of 6 aerial vehicles, 2 ground control stations, 3 ground data terminals, 2 remote video terminals and ground support equipment. Bayraktar TB2 UAV can carry a maximum payload of more than 55 kilos. The standard payload configuration includes an electro-optical camera module, an infrared camera module, a laser designator, a laser range finder and a laser pointer. Ukraine is the latest instance of these formidable attack drones in action. Bayraktar TB2 drones were heavily effective for Azerbaijan against Armenia in November 2002, as testified by multiple videos that emerged at that time. A precursor to this was the success of the TB2 drones against Russian-made weapons in Syria and Libya. Key aspects like low visibility and detectability thanks to the low radar cross-section makes this drone slick and agile. It is interesting to note that earlier this year, Turkey and Ukraine had an agreement in place to co-produce Bayraktar TB2 drones at a production site in Ukraine. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov told reporters in Kiev that the co-production compound would also include a training center where Ukrainian pilots would be trained. This had caused a lot of resentment and anger amongst the Russian defense establishment back then. And with the drones striking Russian targets once again now, expect things to escalate further from the air. With Sai Kiran Kannan in Singapore, Bureau Report, India Today.